Okay, what's going on, people? Ronan MMA back with another video. This is going to be a fight news reaction or reaction to some fights being made. Some good fights at that. We got Dan Hooker versus Jalin Turner, and Kelvin Gastelum versus Chris Curtis. Pardon me. Early in the morning, having issues talking here. Before we get into those fights, I would ask you guys again, please like and subscribe. It would, mean a lot to me. It helps greatly. I'm trying to grow the channel. And small goals. So trying to get to 100. We're at 13, so we still got a ways to go. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much. And over 75% of you do not subscribe, so please do it. Don't steal from me. It's free. You all pay for Netflix or whatever you pay for, DW Plus or something. This is free, one-time sub only, not a monthly fee. Please just click the button and be done with it. I would greatly appreciate it. If you want to leave me a comment, I will reply to all of them. And yeah, let's get into it. So first fight I'm going to talk about is Kelvin Gastelum and Chris Curtis. Now this one, dude, I'm having a hard time. Well, I'm going to be giving my early predictions as well, or at least how I think the fight will go. I will have a hard time ever picking Kelvin Gastelum again, I think. Unfortunately, this might be a take that some people disagree with, because everybody always brings up the fight that he had with Adesanya, dude, which, for the record, is not aging well for Adesanya, because, recently, Jesus Christ, his record, dude. We've got, the loss to Chris Weidman, and then he beats Bisping and Jacare Souza, two older gentlemen on their way out of the game. Michael Bisping quite literally retired after that knockout. Souza was a split decision, right? And Jacare was older, and then we saw Jacare try to move to light heavyweight and not have much success. So those two wins aren't necessarily aging the best. Then we've got Israel Adesanya, of course, the loss. And then we've got another loss that is absolutely not aging well in Darren Till. Now, Darren Till, this loss looks fucking horrible, because since then, I don't think Darren Till's won a fight in the middleweight division. It was his first fight at middleweight, and he still lost to him. Split decision, mind you, very close fight. All Darren Till wanted to do in that fight was play hug the little Mexican kid. Fat Mexican kid, sorry. Hug the fat Mexican kid. That's all Darren Till wanted to do. And Kelvin Gastelum obliged him. Wanted to hug the Scouser out on I don't know what. That fight was lame as shit, dude. And Darren Till acted like he had just conquered the world. And it's really not aging well for Kelvin Gastelum. And then we've got that loss to Jack Hermanson right after. We've got a decision win against a guy in Ian Heinisch who, you know what I mean? In all honesty, dude, if Kelvin Gastelum was who we once thought he was, he should have been able to finish that guy. And then we've got the loss to Robert Whittaker and another one to Jared Cannonier right after that. His record now is 16-8. We're creeping up on Nate Diaz territory, right? 20-10 or whatever, a 75% win ratio. For a guy that people once thought could take the belt off of a guy in Robert Whittaker, who absolutely fucking destroyed him in a way that Israel Adesanya could not. And people will argue that, well, that fight with Izzy back in 2019, that was prime Gastelum, blah blah blah. I really don't think that's what it is. I think that it's less so that was prime Gastelum, that the overall average of skill level in the middleweight division has actually risen. Whereas before, you could come in and, like, dude, he's never really been able to string a very impressive win streak together, except for his very beginning in the UFC, right? But then, and I mean, we have to go back to welterweight to find that. After that, he has not really been, like, I mean, he lost to Neil Magny, and then so he gets a win over Hendricks and Tim Kennedy, and then a no contest over Vitor, and I think that might have been due to a failed drug test, but so let's just call that 3 wins in a row, right? And then he gets a loss, and then he gets another 2 wins against 2 old men, and he finds himself in a title fight. And if Robert Whittaker didn't have to pull out of that fight, he would have been fighting for undisputed gold. He wasn't just fighting for an interim title the whole time, right? He was supposed to be fighting for the undisputed middleweight champion of the world after a 2-fight win streak against 2 old men, essentially. And that just don't fucking cut it no more. I mean, it cut it when Izzy was still champion because they just needed new contenders. But I don't think he was ever championship level at middleweight. And I think that, in all honesty, dude, this guy should be a fucking lightweight. And people will say that that's an exaggeration because he had a hard time making welterweight, but if he weighs in at 185, you're looking at him, you're telling me that dude does not have 30 pounds of fat to cut your out of your fucking mind. Like, when he goes to the doctor, he is, dude, he might be the only obese person who is not fighting at heavyweight in the UFC. And for the record, obesity, it means you're 30 pounds over your BMI. So he's definitely borderline there. And as I said, dude, not looking good. I don't think he was ever championship level. And I think that Chris Curtis, dude, has really come into his own as of late. And he lost to Jack Hermanson too, but it was a unanimous decision. That's going to be a problem for me. Kelvin Gastelum got finished by him though with a heel hook, if I remember correctly. You know, he just knocked out Joaquin Buckley, who I called that. I said Joaquin Buckley's not as good as we think he is, and I used that as an example for Sean Strickland absolutely beating Imavov, because I didn't think that Joaquin Buckley was a good enough win to say that Imavov is who we think he is. But before that Jack Hermanson loss, we've got him beating Phil Hawes, Brendan Allen, and Rodolfo Vieira. And knockouts. I think that Kelvin is done, man. And also, dude, the guy can't stop getting staph. I don't know what it is with this guy. Every time I see him, he has a disgusting sore on his face. Or his neck, or whatever, dude. I don't know if he's letting, like, nasty bitches sit on his face or what he's doing. But he can't seem to get his hygiene under control. As well as his weight. I mean, I'm not exaggerating by saying that guy could fight lightweight either. Like, not a fucking chance. He could easily. What is he, like 5'9", dude? I'm 5'9". I'll tell you what, I could make 185 tomorrow. I wouldn't need a diet, fight camp, weight cut. And we're the same height. You know, he's got a big fat head, but yeah, he's 5'9" too. It's wild to me that this guy fights at middleweight. He shouldn't be here. And at the time when he was here, again, all you needed was a 2-fight win streak against 2 old retired men, or soon to be retired men, to get a chance at Robert Whittaker. And in that fight, man, that was so impressive by Robert Whittaker, but that's like how that fight should have gone. That's how fucking Izzy should have beat him too, dude. There's no excuse for how many times Izzy let Kelvin hit him. So I think I'd have to go with Chris Curtis in that one. I don't think, though, if Chris Curtis can't knock out, or pardon me, if Robert Whittaker can't knock out Kelvin Gastelum, not a chance in hell Chris Curtis does. Unless he's got some new shit KO power that we haven't seen before. But and I know that people will say, like, Robert Whittaker does not punch that hard, because a lot of it is like stabbing in and out shit. But his head kicks, you know, head kick. Anybody can knock someone out with a head kick. So, and he lands them perfectly, and he landed multiple on Gastelum, and it reminded me of the ones he landed on Yoel Romero, where it just really didn't fucking do much, even though it sounded like a baseball bat. But yeah, man, I don't know that I can pick Kelvin Gastelum again. I just don't think that he's going to make a resurgence. I think that in order for him to win, he would have to fight somebody who is not like an up-and-coming contender. So we'd probably have to go outside the top 15 for that. Now, next fight, Dan Hooker versus Jalin Turner. This one is worrisome for me, to say the least, dude, because I'll tell you why. If you're a fight fan and you don't love Dan Hooker, well, then you ain't black. He looked so good at one point. And I'm not talking like Kelvin Gastelum looked good. I'm talking like actually looked like he could potentially fight somebody for a title at some point, whether it be interim or undisputed. I mean, if we take a look at his UFC record here, guys that he's lost to, it's like, yeah, man, I get it. Well, okay. Except Jason Knight. But we got Yair, as Chelsonen would say, Yair Rodriguez. And then we've got him losing to Jason Knight, which is insane. But then he goes on a bit of a tear here. We got him finishing Ross Pearson. We got him finishing Mark DeCasey. We got him finishing Jim Miller. Finishing Gilbert Burns. That one aged incredibly. Like fine wine, my guy. He goes out there and takes a bad beating from Barbosa. Then KOs James Vick. Beats the brakes off of Ally Quinta. Has the crazy war with Paul Felder. Crazy war with Dustin Poirier. And then I would imagine that Chandler KO, now that I'm looking at his record, actually the fact that the Felder and the Dustin Poirier fight were back-to-back might have something to do with how easy he got KO'd, you know. They were Feb 23rd to June. March, April, May, June. 4 months apart, dude. Those were crazy fucking fights. And then he comes back 6 months later and fights Michael Chandler. The guy's a fucking... I love Dan Hooker, dude. Schools, Nasrat Hakprast. Great win. People like to shit on Nasrat, but, dude, I mean, the way he beat him was quite impressive. And then, you know, he goes out there, gets subbed by Islam. Tries to make a resurgence at featherweight, which I hate. He is a big boy. He looks tall and lanky, and he's going to look like a fucking midget compared to his opponent, but going down's never the answer. Going down is when you're, like, really fucking desperate because you know that you're not big and strong enough or powerful enough to go up, and you're losing at your current weight class, so you're like, hey, I'll go fight the smaller guys. It didn't go well. Arnold Allen went crazy, and that decision the decision to stop the fight, it was a tricky one. We just know how tough Dan Hooker is. That's why it's irritating. But I don't think that especially not in a champion or not if it was not. Jesus Christ! If it's a championship fight, I can understand the referee perhaps putting some thought into it. Like, hey, this is Glover Teixeira fighting. I know he's a fucking zombie. I'm not gonna just stop it because I know he's gonna come back. If it's not a championship fight, I don't really think that the referee should have to be weighing that in his brain. And also, they're not supposed to because rules are objective, not personalized for each fighter. Then he goes out there and gets a great looking win against Claudio Puelles, who is a bitch, dude. That fight made me so fucking mad. I was like screaming at my TV that I hope Dan Hooker knocks this dude out, because I don't like seeing dudes just flop to the ground trying to grab a fucking foot. Okay? It's bitch. I don't give a fuck if he's a professional fighter. That's bitch shit. I'll tell you what. He does not want to fight, that guy. He does anything but want to fight. He just wants to fucking wrap your leg up. But and then we get to Jalin Turner, right? Jalin Turner, however the fuck you say his name, the tarantula, is who Terrence McKinney wishes he was. And I'm not just saying that because he's black, my guy. I'm saying that because, Terrence McKinney, long, lanky guy in the lightweight division, has had a bunch of hype around him. I told y'all that he fucking wasn't as good as people were saying he was, and that this dude was gonna wreck him, and that it would probably look like the Drew Dober fight. And what do you fucking know? We see him get hurt and finish with a knee. So, okay. Now, whereas Dan Hooker's fought at featherweight, this 6'3" giant at lightweight could never make fucking featherweight now in the UFC. I don't know if he has at one point, but I know that his UFC debut was against Vicente fucking Luque at welterweight after the Contender Series. That's nuts. Imagine having that as your debut at welterweight. And then he returns to lightweight in his very next fight. Since then, he's only lost once to Matt the Steamroller Fravola, who, in all honesty, dude, that guy's like live dog anywhere he goes. He's a good fighter, and it is what it is. Decision also, so it wasn't like he got fucked up. Then he's on so far. Since then, a 5-fight win streak. He has not lost since February of 2020, and he's been fairly active. And in his last fight, this is kind of relevant, right? He finished Brad Riddell with a submission in the first round. And I know that Brad Riddell is primarily a kickboxer and was a kickboxer before fighting in MMA, but he is also teammates with Dan Hooker. And yeah, dude, fuck. I don't want to see Dan Hooker lose. At least it'll probably be a submission. But this guy's legit. Right? He had 200 pet tarantulas. This guy's a fucking freak, dude. What is with this guy? 200 tarantula? What kind of person does that, dude? That's disgusting. Imagine you wake up in the middle of the night, hear a bunch of glass shattering. I would never return to that house. Growing up, Turner was an arachnophobe. No, he fucking wasn't. To help combat his fear of spiders, he started collecting tarantulas as pets. This guy's fucking mental. He's... Jesus Christ. He might need some help. Jesus, dude. If I had to pick right now, I would probably go with Jalin. Jesus fuck, dude. Why do I keep making that A hard? I think there's no fucking I after it, dude. Jalin Turner. Simply because of consistency, dude. It really sucks because Dan Hooker's level of competition is way leagues above, except for that debut fight against Vicente Luque, but it's just his recent performances, man. It's his recent performances. I don't know how to get around that. Dan Hooker's had one good performance against a guy who had zero striking whatsoever. Dan Hooker's got really good sub defense, and we saw that against that guy, Claudio Puelles. But that guy was really only going for one kind of submission. He was trying to attack the legs. Jalin Turner is dude, so fucking long. Guillotine, chokes, right? We've seen Hooker tap to a Kimura. I mean, I don't know, man. I think that Dan Hooker is just going to be one of those guys who has exciting fights. He could prove me wrong and, defend anything this guy has to offer and make him look like a fool. But you know what, dude? I'm going to say this, though. If it goes outside 7.5 minutes, if it goes longer than that, I might lean Dan Hooker. Because if we go over this guy's career and how he's lost, it has always been by decision, which I can't think of the fights off the top of my head specifically. But that would lead me to believe he might have a gas issue. He might get tired trying to get dudes out of there in the first round, and then, I don't know. But we'll see. I hope Dan Hooker wins that fight. I love Dan Hooker, dude. If you're a fight fan, you can't not. So, those are my early predictions and the breakdowns of these fights. I think Chris Curtis will probably beat Kelvin Gastelum by decision, just from boxing his face off. And I think that Jalin Turner might get Dan Hooker out of there within the first 7.5 minutes. And if he does not, he might be in trouble. But Dan Hooker's going to actually look like a short dude compared to this guy, which is going to be odd for Dan Hooker as well. So, yeah. Fucking like and subscribe, please. Okay? Just do it, dude. It's easy. Don't steal my eggs. All right. See ya.